Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Continuous Quality Improvement tutorial series, where we are going to cover important topics and answer frequently asked questions regarding implementing a CQI cycle at your club. My name is Rachel Keener. I'm a Director of Quality Improvement at BGCA. I worked with the YPQA and CQI at a club before coming to BGCA, and I am passionate about making these meaningful tools as accessible as possible to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Clark Hill. I am also a Director of Quality Improvement at BGCA. I have been working with CQI systems and the YPQA in various settings throughout the country. I am super excited to be able to share all of this information that we've been able to learn. Thank you so much for joining us. Now let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to Getting Started with Assessment, part of our Continuous Quality Improvement tutorial series. Some brief housekeeping before we get started. All of the resources that I'm going to talk about in this video can be found on the CQI toolkit. If you have questions after watching this video, you can email quality@bgca.org or pqa@bgca.org. Or if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation, you can visit the CQI Toolkit's Prepare page and submit a quality consult request found at the bottom of the page. With that being said, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to understand the best practices in assessment for CQI, or assessing in CQI. We're going to learn about the importance of observational assessment and focus on and explore the youth program quality assessment and get down to really how this is used at the site level at a club. Then finally, we're going to review the next steps in getting started with observational assessment. This is our logic model for why we are focusing on quality improvement for our young people. And we articulate it through QUEST. It's the idea that when you start with quality instruction and quality content, so when your staff practices, your interactions between young people and staff are high quality, when your curriculum, when your activities are high quality, that leads to young people showing up and engaging more in the club. It's just common sense. When you have good things, young people follow. When youth come to the club more often, when they're more engaged, asking questions, learning, etc., while they're there, they have more chances and opportunities to practice the skills, beliefs, concepts that clubs are trying to impart on them. So the more times that young people have a chance to practice some of those things that our programs are trying to work with them on, they have a greater chance that they're going to take those skills and beliefs that we are trying to impart on them into other areas of their lives. And this is so important because, yes, we want young people to be successful in our clubs, but what we really want is for them to take those skills and apply them to their home, to their school, to their future relationships, to college, career, etc. If we circle all the way back to the start of this logic model, we see that foundation is quality. It starts with high quality instruction and high quality content. And the way that we can make sure that we have high quality instruction and high quality content is by implementing a cycle of continuous quality improvement. So CQI is a cyclical process designed to explore opportunities to improve the quality of a club. And it does that by analyzing data that's been collected. Clubs then sit down with their teams to plan how they'd like to improve, what's going well, what's not, what things they'd like to change. And then they provide staff with the tools, resources, etc., to implement those improvement plans. The CQI process helps clubs build and maintain quality programs. If we zoom into our assess phase, so the part of this phase where we are collecting data, we're gathering all of our information, we like to talk about separating data into 4 different categories or buckets. And we do this so that we can make sure that we're not only collecting information on one portion of our club, on one aspect, but we get a holistic picture of everything that's going on so that we can make sure our improvement plans are robust and focused. And the first one I'm going to introduce is the quality practice category or bucket. A bucket that assesses staff practices, such as interactions between young people and adults, the way a program incorporates youth voice, how it creates a youth-centered learning environment. And it does that by using a research-validated tool such as the Youth PQA, which we're going to spend today talking about. But there's some other tools available, such as APAS or NISAN, et cetera, that might be more applicable to your local environment. The next data bucket is attendance and participation. So this is information that tells you who's coming to your club and how often. The third bucket is youth outcomes. Through youth outcomes, we measure the success of key program indicators, such as school attendance, literacy measures, and other learned skills. Next, we have club experiences. So this is how participants, members, parents, and other stakeholders experience your club and the programs and activities within it. So here we see all of these data buckets together. And you can see that through looking at our attendance and participation, so who's coming how often, how are they feeling when they're there, are our staff running their programs in a high quality way, is that ultimately resulting in positive outcomes for young people? When we have data in all of these buckets, we have a pretty good picture of what's going well and what could be improved at our clubs. But for now, what we're going to be focusing on is this quality practice data. I'd like to introduce to you the Weichert Center for Youth Program Quality, and specifically their Youth Program Quality Intervention, or YPQI. BGCA is proud to partner with the Weichert Center because they represent over 20 years of industry-leading experience in developing tools both for assessment and for improvement used to improve the quality of out-of-school time programs. So what we're going to introduce to you is a tool out of the Weichert Center called the Youth Program Quality Assessment. This is the tool that they worked for decades to develop to be responsive to the field. It was developed by youth workers for youth workers, and it is what we have been using and will continue to use to measure the quality of staff practice at our clubs. It's a validated instrument or tool designed to assess the quality of youth programs and identify staff training needs across the organization. It uses a set of items that measures youth access to key developmental experiences. And those developmental experiences that are measured in the tool are based, like I said, in decades of research on what makes a quality out-of-school program that leads to the best outcomes for young people. It's a tool that produces a score that can be used for comparison and assessment of progress over time. So you can look at how multiple sites are doing compared to others, what staff are really just rocking it in their program, and what staff might need some additional professional development or support. And you can measure those staff's improvement, those club, organization, et cetera, improvement over time as you use this tool. My favorite part about this tool is that it is both a standard for instruction in out of school time and a measure of performance against that standard. So unlike other sets of data where you get a score back, but there's not a real tangible path to how you can improve your score, the YPQA leads you there and gives you what the best practice looks like right on the tool. Well, the YPQA is based on this pyramid of program quality. If you are a psychology aficionado, you will notice that this looks very similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's intentional. It's based off the same idea that in order for humans or young people to really be engaged, to have higher order thinking, creativity, learning, expression, etc., they need to start from having their foundational needs met. So in and out of school time space, it looks like this. At the very bottom of the tier is the safe environment, that your emotional safety is met. You have a basic emergency preparedness procedures. Your environment is healthy, it's accommodating. All the basic needs are there. And when that happens, it allows folks to then move into supportive environments. So we measure things, or the YPQA measures whether or not staff are have a warm welcome, if they're actively engaging with youth, if they are using positive encouragement techniques. Do they help to reframe conflict when it happens so that youth feel supported to show up in the club and really engage? And then we move into the third tier, up our little pyramid ladder, into interaction. So when youth have their safety needs met and they're feeling supported, they can start working on some of those relational skills. So gaining a sense of belonging, collaborating with other young people, getting opportunities to practice their leadership skills and form authentic partners with adults in their program. And then finally, that leads to engagement. And the YPQA defines engagement a little bit differently than how we might think of it off the bat. Like, it's not just that young people are putting their feet in our doors and showing up, but it's measuring when they're there, do they have the opportunity to authentically plan for their future for the program, sort of exercise those higher order thinking skills? Do they have a choice in what they do? Can they really use, like I said, those thinking skills to make choices for how they're spending their day, how their group is going to execute their program projects, etc. And then finally, have the ability to reflect on that experience and really make meaning of it for themselves. So the YPQA can be used in two different ways, and that is in a program self-assessment and a program external assessment. Now, we're going to go into more detail in a second as to how exactly that program self-assessment works. But I wanted to outline for you that program self-assessment is absolutely the place to start. You can do this right now with your own site team. You don't need any additional training outside of the PQA Basics course available on Spoleto Leadership University and found on the CQI toolkit. And what you do is you get a staff team together who takes that foundation training to get comfortable with the YPQA. They observe each other leading programs and then have a meeting to score the tool. They then develop improvement plans based on that and sort of move forward. The other way to use this tool is through something called external assessment. This is when you have an anchored or reliable rater. We use all this jargon, but basically somebody who has passed their external assessment certification. So we know that they have a pretty hefty and significant knowledge base of what the tool's measuring and that we can rely on their scores to be accurate. And they come watch a program from start to finish. So they'll come into the club. They will watch an entire Smart Girls session, an entire Passport session from start to finish. They will score the tool and give results back. If you are interested in figuring out how to access an external assessor in your area or have your own staff trained to be external assessors, you can contact pqa@bgca.org or check out the CQI toolkit for upcoming opportunities. This is another way to articulate the difference between program self-assessment and program external assessment. For self-assessment, how most of you will be using this tool, your staff team takes turns observing each other and multiple program offerings. So you may see 15 minutes of Smart Girls, you may see 30 minutes of Passport, you may see 15 more minutes of like a STEM or Money Matters program, and that will result in a single scored tool. In an external assessment, the assessor comes in and watches a program from start to finish and then gives you the results back on that. So we're going to dive deeper now into what this actually looks like practically. So the first step in program self-assessment is to find your assessment leader. So oftentimes this is a site manager, an administrator, a director, your program director, et cetera. Somebody who's going to be in charge of facilitating and coordinating the whole process. And then you're going to identify your assessment team members. So we encourage you to choose at least 2 other program staff. You can include parents, volunteers. You can include a local YPQA evaluator expert if you live in an area or your club's in an area where you have access to multiple sort of folks with expertise in this area. I have also seen teams include young people and members and that have had great success with that. So 2 things to think about when you are developing your assessment team. Do always include program staff as much as possible. We want our frontline staff to be aware of what they're being assessed on and really be part of the process. But don't include only administrative staff. It leads to power dynamics and tension that really is unnecessary in the long run. So the next step is having a team meeting to prepare for collecting that data. So you have team members take turns observing each other in action. Try to schedule a total of 1 hour of observation divided among your team members. It is okay if your team members assess more than that. What we're trying to do here is make it accessible when you've got, a finite number of staff, kids in the building, and you need to make some decisions about where folks are at. So ideally, you want to try and observe all elements of the program. So you want to make sure you see a start, middle, and end. You want to be sure to notify your frontline staff that the observation is happening. And then plan a time as soon as possible to follow up and meet with your team to discuss and score. So here's our tip for this. Do what works for your program. The more you can observe, the richer your conversations will be, the better picture you're going to have of your club. But if you only have time for your site team to do 15 minutes each, that's okay. Start where you can. Once your team's decided who's going to observe who, what your schedule is going to be, it's time to sit down, observe, and take notes. So our suggestion is to bring the PQA observation guide with you. You're going to take notes on what you see happening in the program throughout the offering on factual information. So you're trying to be as objective as possible. So once your team has taken all their notes, they have their observational scores, you're going to get together and have what we call a consensus meeting. You will also see this as a team-based scoring meeting. This is where you all look at and discuss what you saw, what went well, what didn't well, and select what score best fits your club. For further resources on how to have a consensus meeting, including a video tutorial, a slide deck, an agenda you can use, you can find that all on the CQI toolkit. Again, our note is do involve program staff and make sure you plan more time than you think you'll need. And our resources on the CQI toolkit really outline that well. So your next steps after following this video is logging onto the CQI toolkit, checking out the assess phase, and walking through all of the steps that we've given you for how to do your self-assessment, how to get familiar with the tool, using PQA basics, look at some of our resources that we have for recording your scores, like Scores Reporter, etc. And be sure to check out the resources we've made for you to have those consensus meetings with your team.